Have you noticed? The people who used to talk about awakening, who shared their journey openly, who showed up consistently in your feed and your circle and your conversations about consciousness and energy and what it means to truly live. They have gone quiet. They are not posting anymore. They are not at the gatherings. They have stepped back from the spaces they once occupied visibly and enthusiastically. And in the absence of their presence, a question forms. What happened? Some assume the worst, that they gave up, that the awakening turned out to be a phase, that life pulled them back into the ordinary in ways that slowly erased what seemed so real and so significant about where they were going. But those who are paying close attention, who have been on their own path long enough to recognize the signs of genuine maturation, understand something different. Spiritually awakened souls are not disappearing because they failed. They are disappearing because they leveled up. The withdrawal is not a retreat. The silence is not defeat. The stepping back from visibility is not the end of the journey. It is, in many ways, the beginning of its most significant chapter. Because there comes a point on a genuine path of spiritual growth where the outward expression of that growth, the sharing, the posting, the participating in communities and gatherings organized around awakening, becomes less important than the inward deepening of it, where the performance of spiritual development gives way to the actual practice of it, where what is real goes underground, not because it has diminished, but because it has become too substantial and too sacred to need an audience. If you have been watching people disappear from your spiritual circles and wondering what it means, this message is for you. And if you have been the one disappearing, if you have been withdrawing from visibility in ways you could not fully explain but could not stop, this message is especially for you. Before we continue, take a slow breath. Let this quiet moment be intentional. Subscribe to this channel if you are walking a path of genuine spiritual growth and conscious awakening. And if this found you at exactly the right moment, leave 1111 in the comments as your quiet declaration that you recognize what is being described. Now let us walk through 9 reasons why spiritually awakened souls are disappearing, and why every single one of those reasons is a sign not of failure, but of genuine and irreversible spiritual maturation. 1. They have stopped needing external validation to know they are on the right path. There is a stage in spiritual development where sharing is genuinely necessary, not performative, not ego-driven, but genuinely necessary, because the path is new and uncertain, and the reflection of others who recognize what you are experiencing provides a kind of confirmation that the internal compass, not yet fully calibrated, genuinely needs. The community, the sharing, the visible participation in conversations about awakening, all of this serves a real function when the inner knowing is still being established. But something shifts when the inner knowing becomes genuinely established, when you no longer need the likes or the comments or the acknowledgement of others to feel certain that what you are experiencing is real and that the direction you are moving is right. When the compass becomes reliable enough on its own that external confirmation moves from necessary to optional. When your sense of being on your path becomes rooted in something so internal and so stable that the presence or absence of an audience simply stops mattering in the way it once did. At this point, sharing becomes a choice rather than a need. And for many awakened souls, when sharing becomes genuinely optional, the honest answer to the question of whether to do it is increasingly, not right now. Not because there is nothing to share, but because what is most real and most alive in their journey at this stage does not need to be shared to be valid, does not need to be witnessed to be true, does not need an audience to be the most important thing happening in their life. The disappearance from visibility is, in this dimension, simply the natural consequence of no longer needing to be seen in order to know you exist. 2. The conversations that once felt connecting now feel depleting. Awakened souls feel the energy beneath the words, not as a metaphor, not as a poetic description of emotional sensitivity, but as a genuine and often overwhelming perceptual reality. The awareness that every conversation, every social environment, Every sustained interaction carries a frequency that does not stop at the surface of the words being exchanged, but extends into something the body and the energy field register directly. And what the awakened soul registers, increasingly clearly as their sensitivity deepens, is the difference between conversations that carry genuine substance, that move something, that produce genuine connection, that leave both people more alive and more themselves than they were before, and conversations that do not. The gossip that circulates as social currency, the complaining that bonds people through shared resentment rather than genuine intimacy, the performative exchange of surfaces that looks like connection from the outside but produces, in anyone genuinely paying attention, the particular tiredness of having spent energy on something that gave nothing real in return. The awakened soul does not withdraw from conversation because they have become superior or because genuine human connection no longer matters to them. They withdraw because the gap between what they need from connection and what most available conversation is offering has grown too wide to bridge through continued participation. They are not antisocial. They are simply too attuned to the energy of interaction to continue investing in exchanges that cost more than they produce. And that attunement, however isolating it can feel in practice, is one of the clearest signs of genuine spiritual maturation. 3. They understand from direct experience what sustained exposure to misaligned energy actually costs. There is a kind of knowledge that only direct experience produces. The awakened soul has lived enough, has moved through enough environments that were not aligned with their frequency, has spent enough time in social circles that drained rather than restored, has participated enough in collective dynamics organized around fear, competition, or the unconscious exchange of unresolved wounds, to know, in their body and their energy field and every dimension of their experience, what sustained exposure to misaligned energy actually costs. It is not a theoretical concern, it is a lived reality. The heaviness that accumulates after hours in a low-frequency environment, the days sometimes required to restore what a single difficult social situation depleted, the way their clarity, their creativity, their sense of genuine inner aliveness diminishes in proportion to the time spent in spaces that are fundamentally at odds with where they are vibrating. And having lived this enough times, having experienced the contrast clearly enough between how they feel in aligned environments and how they feel in misaligned ones, they make a choice. Not a dramatic choice, not an announcement, simply a quiet, consistent redirection of where they place themselves and with whom they spend their limited and precious energy. The disappearance that others observe is, from the inside, something more like the simple and necessary act of a soul taking responsibility for its own well-being, of recognizing that staying in spaces that cost more than they produce is not loyalty or humility or service. It is a slow depletion of something that was given for a purpose, and that purpose requires the soul to be resourced, not chronically depleted. 4. They have recognized what certain digital environments were doing to their inner life. Social media was designed to capture and hold attention, not to serve the genuine flourishing of the people using it, but to maximize the time they spend engaging with it, through mechanisms that have been carefully engineered to exploit the psychological vulnerabilities that most people carry. The comparison that produces a low-grade, chronic sense of inadequacy, the outrage that generates enough emotional activation to keep scrolling, the dopamine cycle of seeking validation through metrics that are, at their core, entirely disconnected from anything of genuine value. The algorithmic curation that serves not what is true or nourishing or genuinely helpful, but what produces the most engagement, which is almost never the same thing. Awakened souls, whose sensitivity to frequency makes them particularly vulnerable to the emotional manipulation embedded in these systems, and particularly aware of what sustained exposure to them does to their inner state, reach a point where they simply cannot continue participating in good conscience. Not with drama, not with a public announcement of their departure, or a denunciation of the platforms they are leaving. simply with the quiet recognition that what they were exchanging for the sense of connection those platforms provided, their peace, their clarity, their inner aliveness, the quality of their attention, was not a trade that served anything genuinely important in their lives. The disappearance from social media is not giving up. It is opting out of a system that was never designed to serve the kind of soul they are. And the clarity and the spaciousness that follows that opting out is itself one of the most significant confirmations that the choice was right. 5. The most important work of their current season is invisible. There is a particular kind of work that produces no visible output, no posts documenting the process, no shareable moments of breakthrough or realization, no evidence that anything is happening at all, from the perspective of anyone observing from the outside. And yet, this invisible work, the honest examination of what has been carried unconsciously, the gentle but unflinching encounter with the wounds that have never been fully tended, the slow and painstaking process of untangling inherited patterns from genuine selfhood, is among the most significant and most genuinely productive work a human being can do. Shadow work, ancestral healing, the rewiring of nervous system patterns laid down in experiences that the body has been carrying long past the point where the mind has processed them. The patient, unglamorous, deeply private work of becoming more genuinely free. This work cannot be done publicly, not because it is shameful, but because it requires a quality of honest self-encounter that the awareness of being observed consistently interrupts. Because the rawness it requires, the willingness to be genuinely undone and genuinely uncertain and genuinely in process without the protective covering of a curated presentation, is simply not compatible with visibility. The awakened soul who has gone quiet is often, from the inside, in the most intensely productive season of their entire spiritual journey. They have not stopped. They have simply moved the work to where it actually happens, inward, in private, in the unglamorous and invisible depths where genuine transformation always ultimately occurs. 6. They have outgrown the community that once felt like home. This is one of the most painful and least discussed dimensions of genuine spiritual maturation. The spiritual community that provided such essential companionship and resonance and confirmation in earlier seasons, the circle of people who were awakening together, who understood the language of frequency and consciousness and soul purpose in ways that most of the world did not, has begun to feel, gradually and then unmistakably, like it no longer quite fits. Not because the people in it are bad or wrong or spiritually inferior, but because communities, like all living systems, have their own frequency. And that frequency, shaped by the collective consciousness of everyone in the community, does not always continue to match the frequency of every individual member as each person's path evolves in its own direction. When a genuine spiritual community becomes organized around the performance of awakening rather than its actual practice, when the conversations that should be producing genuine growth instead produce the same patterns of ego, competition, and unconscious wounding that the awakening was supposed to address, when the vocabulary of consciousness is used in the service of dynamics that are, at their root, organized around the same fears and the same needs for validation that spirituality was supposed to transcend. The awakened soul who has genuinely moved beyond that frequency feels the misalignment, and they face a choice that has no clean or comfortable resolution: to stay in a community that no longer matches where they are, or to step away from the connection it provided in search of something that genuinely does. Many choose the stepping away, and the disappearance that results, the absence from the gatherings and the group chats and the shared spaces that once felt like genuine community, is not rejection. It is the painful but necessary consequence of a soul that has grown past what the current community can hold. 7. They have discovered that their own company is genuinely sufficient. There is a transformation in the relationship with solitude that marks a particular threshold of spiritual maturation, and those who reach it describe it with a consistency that makes clear it is a recognizable stage rather than an individual quirk. The shift from solitude as absence, as the uncomfortable void left by the withdrawal of other people's presence, to solitude as fullness, as a space that is not empty, but inhabited by a quality of presence, of inner aliveness, of genuine companionship with the deeper dimensions of one's own being that the noise of constant social engagement consistently crowds out. The awakened soul who has reached this threshold is not lonely in their solitude. They are genuinely nourished by it, not in the way that an introvert is restored by time alone after the depletion of social engagement, but in a deeper way, in the way of a soul that has found in genuine solitude access to a dimension of its own experience that is more alive, more clear, more genuinely satisfying than most of what social engagement was providing. This is not isolation. It is not the withdrawal of someone who has given up on human connection. It is the discovery of a relationship with oneself that is so genuinely rich and so genuinely sustaining that the need for constant external stimulation simply dissolves. Not because connection with others is no longer valued, but because the inner life has become full enough on its own that the frenetic pursuit of external connection to fill an inner void is no longer necessary. When they disappear into solitude, they are not disappearing from life. They are disappearing into the most essential and most alive dimension of it. 8. They are in a period of preparation for what comes next. Before genuine expansion, there is almost always a period of apparent contraction. Before the butterfly, the cocoon. Before the emergence, the withdrawal. Before the new chapter fully reveals itself, the quiet and often uncomfortable season in which what came before is being dissolved, and what comes next is being formed. In the dark, without visibility, without the reassurance of an external audience confirming that the process is real and that it is leading somewhere. This is the season that many awakened souls are currently in. Not a permanent state, not a final destination, but a necessary passage, a period of repositioning, of reorientation, of the kind of deep internal reorganization that can only happen in the absence of the demands and the distractions and the performance requirements of a highly visible public presence. The mission that is taking shape in this season is larger than what came before. The contribution that is being prepared is more significant, more aligned, more genuinely suited to what this particular soul is here to offer than anything that preceded it. But its formation requires a quality of interior space and interior quiet that visibility consistently disrupts. The withdrawal is not the end, it is the preparation. And what emerges from it, when the timing is right, when the formation is complete, when the next chapter is genuinely ready to be lived, will carry a depth and an authenticity and a power that the version which preceded the withdrawal could not have produced. The butterfly does not fail by spending time in the cocoon. The cocoon is exactly where the butterfly becomes possible. 9. They have learned to move with intention rather than performance. This is the deepest and most mature of all the reasons, and it is the one that most completely reframes what the disappearance actually means. The loudest voices in any space are often not, the most evolved ones. Volume and frequency of output are not reliable indicators of depth, of genuine wisdom, of the quality of what is actually being contributed. In a world that consistently rewards visibility and consistency of posting over the genuine substance of what is being shared, the correlation between how much someone is speaking and how much they actually have to say is often inverse rather than direct. The awakened soul who has moved into genuine maturation understands this. They have been through the season of speaking frequently, of sharing every realization, documenting every stage of the journey, maintaining a consistent visible presence in the spaces where awakening is discussed and celebrated. And they have discovered through that experience something that cannot be discovered any other way. That the speaking was sometimes more about the need to be seen in the awakening than about the genuine impulse to contribute something real. That the consistency of output was sometimes maintained more by the algorithm's demands than by the genuine availability of something worth saying. That the most significant things they had to contribute arrived in their fullness not from the pressure of maintaining visibility, but from the space of genuine quiet, and that they could not be shared without losing something essential in the translation. and so they have learned to wait. To speak only when something genuine is ready to be spoken, to act without announcing, to move in mystery, trusting that what they are building in the quiet will make itself known in its own time, in its own way, without requiring the performance of its formation. This is not arrogance. It is not the dismissal of communication as unimportant. It is the highest form of integrity available to someone who takes seriously the responsibility of speaking into the lives of others. The commitment to offer only what is genuinely ready, to move only when genuinely guided, to disappear from visibility rather than fill the space with what is not yet real. The awakened soul who has gone quiet is not done. They are becoming. And what they are becoming, in the silence, in the solitude, in the invisible depths of a season that looks from the outside like disappearance, is the most powerful and the most genuinely contributing version of themselves that has ever existed. If you have been watching people disappear from your spiritual circles, if you have lost track of people who once felt like essential companions on this path, take a breath before you interpret that loss as failure or abandonment, or the dimming of something that once burned brightly. What you are witnessing is maturation, the movement of a genuine path past the stages that require visibility into the stages that require depth, the natural consequence of an awakening that has become real enough to no longer need performance to sustain it. And if you are the one who has been disappearing, if you have been stepping back from visibility in ways you could not fully explain but could not stop, receive this as confirmation. You have not failed. You have not lost your way. You have not retreated from your path. You are on it more genuinely than you have ever been. Moving through a season that requires exactly what you are giving it: your quiet, your inwardness, your willingness to let what is forming in you form fully before you bring it into the light. The world is not losing you. It is waiting for the version of you that this season is making possible. And that version, shaped in silence, forged in solitude, matured past the need for an audience, is going to have more to offer than everything that came before it. Keep going. The silence is doing exactly what it is supposed to do. This is the Messages of the Awakening channel. If this stirred something in you, share it with someone who needs this reminder today. Subscribe for more spiritual awakening content. And leave 1111 in the comments if this found you at exactly the moment your soul needed it. Thank you for being here.